What is shaken, Internet? This is Saltz bringing you the How to Tank for Dummies, the Fallen Predictors LFR guide. The Fallen Predictors is the second boss in the Siege of Orgrimmar raid instance for the first quarter LFR instance, named the Veil of Eternal Sorrows. For those of you in queue or fighting trash, a quick synopsis. One tank on Rook, and the other on He. Rook tank needs to face him away from the group and grab all the adds that spawn when he disappears, kiting them around and interrupting them when possible. He tank needs to not stand in poison pools and turn away from him when he casts Gouge. Both tanks will stand in the middle when everything gets all purple, and all bosses need to die within 20 seconds of each other or they'll get healed back up. Okay, let's start on the Rogue Guide for Dummies. There is no trash before this boss, but there is a cinematic, so make sure everyone is in the boss arena and ready to go before you begin the real fight. The Predictors themselves are pretty easy if you take them as individuals. There is only a single phase to the whole fight, but each boss has a separate health pool. If any one of them dies, a 20-second countdown will start. If another boss doesn't die in those 20 seconds, they'll be revived. If one does, it resets back to 20, and hopefully you can kill the last boss within that last 20 seconds. All this means is that they all have to die relatively soon after each other, so DPS should spread out accordingly. As a tank, the only suggestion I have for this is that you need to mark one with the highest percent of health with a skull, switching it around to make sure people are targeting the right thing. Skull is like a bullseye for people in LFR. Now, there are 3 individual bosses here. Luckily, only 2 need to be tanked, Rook and He. I'm going to keep saying He, even if it's the wrong pronunciation, to avoid confusion with he. Before going into the boss's moves, there's one more mechanic we need to know about: desperate measures. When any one of the bosses hits 66% or 33% of their health, they will cast desperate measures. This will do something different for each of the bosses, so we'll cover them individually. The important thing is to expect these to happen at 2/3 and 1/3 health, so you know when they're coming. Now let's start by talking about Rook, as he's pretty much the easiest to tank. Basically, he has 3 moves. First up is Vengeful Strikes. This will stun his tank and do a cone of damage towards him for a few seconds. This is why you need to face him away from the raid to avoid this damage. Do note that there will be times where everyone will be snacked in the middle, including you as a tank, so just try your best to avoid others getting hit by this cone. Corrupted Brew is a random raid damager that he'll cast pretty frequently. This really doesn't matter to you very much, so just ignore it. At times, Rook will charge a random raid member and begin a Corruption Kick. Just don't stand in the kick, as it will put a mild DOT on you, and wait for him to be done to resume tanking. That's all his moves during the normal fight. Now, at 2/3 and 1/3 health, he'll cast Desperate Measures, which removes him from the fight temporarily. In his place, 3 adds will spawn around the room: a Misery, Sorrow, and Gloom. You should pick them up as soon as possible. Misery will continuously knock you back and leave void zones down, which is mostly just annoying. Gloom is more important, as he'll cast Corruption Shock, which is a big nuke on random people. Luckily, it's interruptible, so interrupt this and focus down Gloom while tanking. The last add, the Sorrow add, will cast Inferno Strike every so often, which is also a big nuke that is shared by everyone in the blast. You'll be busy getting knocked around, and this really can't be interrupted, so just save him for after the Gloom, at least for you. So quick recap for the Rook tank. Face him away, don't stand in the spinning kick, grab all the adds during Desperate Measures and interrupt Gloom to kill him first, then Sorrow, then Misery. Now for the He tank. He is slightly more complicated, but not very extremely. He has 3 moves as well. Gouge is the big one for tanks to watch out for. When he casts Gouge, he will incapacitate his tank for 6 seconds and go attack someone else for that time, unless you're not facing him. So you have to face away from He when he casts Gouge, and then you'll just take damage and get knocked back a bit. Well, forward because you won't be facing him, but whatever. Garrote. Garrot? I don't know how to say that. Garrot is his next ability. He will put this DOT on random raid members throughout the fight, but there's nothing much to worry about since you can't do anything about it. Lastly, He will buff himself frequently. He can gain one of 2 buffs and he alternates between the 2. Noxious Poison, which makes a lot of poison pools appear on the ground when he attacks, so just keep moving when this happens. And Instant Poison, which increases He's damage output significantly. You need to use your cooldowns when He uses Instant Poison, as this can hurt substantially. Now, during Desperate Measures, again at 2/3 and 1/3 health, he will disappear and summon an ad called an Anguish. The biggest problem here is that the Anguish will mark a target and focus on that target alone. The person who is marked can actually choose a different person and move the mark to them, which turns the ad's attention away, but it does a lot of bad things to the entire raid. Without going into details, the more this mark jumps around from person to person, the more damage everyone in the raid will take. There's not much you can do in LFR to stop the mark from moving, or the person with the mark from being stupid, but if you can get them to throw the mark back at you, that will be the best idea. This will make the ad fixate on you as a tank so you can just continue tanking away. There is a catch though. When you get the mark, you get a 50% armor reduction. So get those cooldowns ready. The ad doesn't hurt too very much, but the debuff lasts 2 minutes, which is long enough to still be around when you switch back to tanking the main boss. As soon as the Anguish ad dies, He will return and you can continue tanking him. So, quick recap for the He tank. Don't look at him when he casts Gouge, minor cooldowns for instant poison, don't stand in poison pools, and try to get marked when the ad appears during desperate measures. Now for the last protector, Sun Tenderheart, or Sun Tenderheart, whatever. She does not need to be tanked because she will be casting random damage and DOTs all over the raid. There's not too much to talk about here, but she does have one move that is very important to everybody. When she's not in desperate measures, Sun will cast Calamity every so often. This does 30% of everyone's health as damage straight up. Since it's percentage based, you'll need to be wary of it, since it can catch you off guard. That's 30% of your entire health instantly. Be sure not to be low when Calamity comes out, or get ready to use a cooldown. Now, when she does hit desperate measures, the entire room will get filled by purple junk. Standing in purple junk is bad for your health. So when this happens, everyone in the raid needs to move to the protected center of the arena. Be careful here because being in close proximity of people will mean that there's no room to move, and there's a lot of things that either deal AoE damage or drop void zones on the ground in this fight. Be prepared to use raid-wide cooldowns here if you start having lots of spread out damage. Her desperate measures will end when the 2 ads that she spawns die, named Despair and Desperation. Luckily, you don't have to tank these ads or even hunt them down really if you're outside of the big protected circle. While in this phase, lots of little ads will spawn as well, and run towards the group and do basic melee attacks, which are totally wimpy. Doing any damage to these little ads will actually also hurt the big ones, so basically just AoE in the protected circle until the big ads die, and then you can spread out again. Now, the best strategy here is to get Rook to 66%, then kill his 3 ads, then get He to 66%, then kill his ad, then get Sun to 66% and kill all of her ads, and then repeat. Once Sun goes through her second desperate measures, then you just need to even out DPS to finish them all at the same time, or within 20 seconds. Honestly, the biggest challenge of this fight is not the bosses, or even staying alive, it's making sure that they all die at the right time. In LFR, I believe you have a little bit of bonus leeway, and as long as they all die within 20 seconds, you'll be fine. So, let's do a quick recap of the whole fight one more time to wrap things up. Rook tank needs to face him away, and round up the 3 ads when they appear, interrupting Gloom while kiting them around. He tank needs to turn away from Gouge, and not stand in poison, trying to get marked for the ad, and burning it down. Everyone needs to watch out for Calamity, the raid-wide 30% damage move, and stack in the middle when purple junk goes everywhere. Kill the bosses within 20 seconds of each other, and the fight's over. I hope you enjoyed this quick and easy guide for dummies. Please like, favorite, share, subscribe, all that jazz, and, as always, you keep it salty, Internet.